The rain in Ouagadougou had stopped just an hour ago, but the air still felt heavy, as if the sky was holding its breath. Inside the presidential palace, the hall was silent except for the slow, measured footsteps of President Ibrahim Traoré. He had not slept. His aides could see it in his eyes, sharp, alert, and weighed with something far more pressing than fatigue. A satellite phone rested on the mahogany desk in front of him. For hours, messages had poured in, from ambassadors, journalists, even military intelligence. But it was one message that made the air in the room turn cold. Netanyahu had moved again. This was no longer about diplomacy. This was no longer about quiet warnings. Traoré stood by the window, staring at the distant city lights as if speaking to himself. We told him, again and again. This is the last time. The aides exchanged glances. No one spoke. His press secretary approached, holding a draft of the statement he had prepared, but Traoré pushed it away. No paper, no script. I speak from the heart tonight. The cameras were already being set up in the main hall. Outside, soldiers lined the courtyard in perfect formation. Even the sound of boots on the tiles felt like a heartbeat counting down. 1:59 a.m. World leaders slept, but the world itself was awake. Social media timelines were on fire. Rumors of a final address from Burkina Faso's leader were everywhere. Hashtags were trending in multiple languages. In the control room, a producer whispered, "We're live in 60 seconds. Traoré's eyes didn't leave the lens. He adjusted his uniform, the weight of his beret shadowing his brow. And then, in a tone that was calm but carried the quiet force of a storm, he began, "Benjamin Netanyahu, listen to me carefully. I will speak slowly so there will be no misunderstanding. This is the last time I speak to you in this way. The last time I offer you a chance to step back." His voice echoed in the room, the kind of sound that didn't need to be loud to feel dangerous. For too long, you have played with the lives of millions as if they were pieces on your chessboard. But the world is not your board. These are people, children, mothers, fathers, and the earth itself. It remembers everything. Somewhere in Tel Aviv, a senior aide burst into Netanyahu's office, tablet in hand. "Sir, you need to see this." Now, the Israeli Prime Minister looked up, his jaw tightening as the feed filled the screen. Traoré continued, "You think distance protects you. You think that walls, treaties, and power shields you. But distance is gone now. In this age, the truth travels faster than bullets. And when the truth arrives, there will be no wall high enough to protect you from it." In Paris, journalists interrupted midnight broadcasts to translate the speech in real time. In Washington, senators received emergency alerts on encrypted devices. In Johannesburg, crowds gathered around TVs and street cafes. The entire world seemed to lean forward. "This is not about war. This is about dignity," Traoré said, his hand tightening into a fist for just a moment before relaxing again. "You have ignored every private warning, every quiet hand extended in restraint. Tonight I am telling you, there will be no more quiet." He paused. The kind of pause that makes the air heavier. "If by sunrise you have not changed your course, you will have forced my hand. And when I move, I will not move alone." Gasps erupted in newsrooms around the globe. Analysts began speaking in hurried tones about coalitions, unknown alliances, and consequences that could reshape geopolitics. Traoré's gaze didn't waver. "I have no desire to destroy, but I have an unshakable duty to protect. And that duty will be fulfilled with or without your consent." Then in almost a whisper he added, "You know what I am capable of. And you know, I do not bluff." The screen went black, no outro, no flag, no national anthem, just silence. But in that silence, the world's pulse quickened. In Tel Aviv, Netanyahu stared at the blank screen, the reflection of his own face staring back. His advisors spoke over each other, throwing out strategies, countermeasures, excuses. But Netanyahu wasn't listening. His eyes had shifted, not to them, but to the clock. 3:01 a.m., 4 hours until sunrise. Across the globe, the countdown had begun. In marketplaces, mosques, churches, and crowded bars, people whispered, "He said sunrise." Governments scrambled. Phone lines between capitals lit up. There was no sleep for diplomats tonight. By 5:15 a.m., the streets of Jerusalem were eerily still. Military convoys moved quietly, avoiding attention. Netanyahu, pacing in his office, felt the weight of the moment pressing on his chest. Reports kept coming in, African leaders voicing support for Traore, youth movements calling for global solidarity, even murmurs from nations he once considered allies now urging restraint. At 5:50 a.m., a small crowd began to gather outside the Knesset, holding handmade signs that simply read, "Listen." Cameras caught everything. By 5:59, millions were watching live streams tracking the sky. The first glimmer of sunrise painted the horizon in soft gold. Somewhere in Ouagadougou, Traore stood on a rooftop, looking east. His closest advisor approached quietly. "It's time." Traore nodded once, his expression unreadable. The final choice was Netanyahu's. But the world knew, after this dawn, nothing would be the same. The sun finally broke over the horizon, spilling light across two capitals divided by thousands of miles, yet bound by one decision. Netanyahu sat frozen, the rising dawn casting long shadows across his desk. In Ouagadougou, Ibrahim Traoré lowered his head for a brief moment of silence before turning to his aide. "The time of warnings is over," he said quietly. And with that, the world realized this was no longer a threat. It was history unfolding in real time. The question was no longer if change would come, but how fast, and who would be ready for it.